Okay, so yesterday we spoke about the idea of Bikurim, bringing the first fruits, the idea of bringing tithes, the idea of looking after the needy and the poor and the weak. So then we'll see what's the continuity. Going down to verse number 16, it says, "Ayoyim hazeh Hashem Elokechem mitzavcha la'asos es hachukim ha'ele v'es hamishpotim v'hashamata v'asisa isam b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha." So on this day, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is commanding us that we're supposed to keep all of the mitzvahs. Rashi says, right, on the words Ayoyim hazeh, that on this day. So the obvious question is, what is this day? What are we talking about?
The day when we're supposed to give sacrifices of the first fruits.
Oh, so right, that would seem to be the most obvious answer, right? But Rashi says, "B'chol yom
Every day.
yeh banecha chadoshim," that every day should be as if these things are new. Ki'ilu boy b'yom nitztaris alayim, that as if we were commanded on this day, right now, by HaKadosh Baruch Hu to keep the mitzvahs. It's a medrash Tanchuma. It's a very, very important, very, very fundamental Rashi. It really is a very fundamental understanding over here, because if I don't approach my avodas Hashem, if I don't approach my connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu as being something which is new, right? B'chol yom yeh b'necha chadoshim, that every day it should be new for you. If I don't do that, then what happens? It becomes jaded. Right, my approach, I become jaded, I become cynical, I'm just doing things by rote, I'm not doing them because they're important to me, I'm just doing them because that's the way they're always done. And it's something you should know, it's something very fundamental. I think I told you, I can't remember if I told you this, but my father, Alav Shalom, was he was a businessman. He was involved in the shmata trade, in clothing. And he said that he could walk through the floors where, in the business where he was working, he could walk through and he could see, straight away he could see who was happy with what they were doing and who wasn't. Who was happy to be there that day and who wasn't. And he said, you don't need to be, Einstein to work this one out, but he said that the people who came to work, continuously in a good frame of mind, that were happier, they were the most productive people. Because they wanted to be there, right? Yeah.
Can I ask you a question then to do with the mitzvot?
Sure.
Should you then do only the mitzvot that you understand fully?
Oh, yeah, good question.
As in, if you, let's say, I fully understand, I've got this pet thingy, that it's one of my things that I generally, it's something that I debate with my father a lot. So the question I asked a few weeks ago was the following. I said to him, we went to, I can't remember where we were, but he realised that at the time I didn't have a kippah on because we'd just come out of the pool, and they didn't have sit or whatever. And he said to me, wear your kippah and sit. So I said, I've got a kippah, but I haven't got any sit. And then he says to me, I think it's really important that you get sit. And I said, no, I'd rather get them at the time when I'm ready to get them, as in when I fully understand why I'm wearing them. I'd rather get them then. Oh. And then the next day he goes and buys me them. Good. So then I'm like, at that point I'm like, okay, fine, I'll wear them at the time. Then it was actually decreasing from it was taking away from my Yiddishkeit in a sense, because I didn't want to wear them. Good. And then, the next time I saw him, I was like, okay, fine, do I wear them out of respect for him, or do I fake it? Do you know what I mean? So what did you do? I faked it. I didn't wear them. Shame on you. I know. That's it. You're going to burn for eternity. I know. Never mind. No, but isn't that what the question is? Yeah, it's a great question. It really is. In a minute, we'll see there's a very definitive answer. There really is. But just to explain the question properly, there is a very logical idea behind, I'm happy to do the mitzvot, I really am, but I'm only going to do the ones that I understand right now because they're the ones that I can connect to. Yeah, and the other ones, I'll wait. It's not in that. It's like, I'm not going to do a mitzvah that I don't feel enhances my connection. Right. So here, let's have a look and see, right? The answer, which I'm sure you probably realize what the answer is, even if you would prefer it not to be like that. The answer is that we have to keep the mitzvot whether we understand them or not. Right? Now, why is that? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, this is what enhances my relationship together with you. Let me just explain it through to the end, and then whatever you want to say, you can say. Right? Yeah. I want it to flow. Right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, this is what you need to do in order to be able to be connected to me in the most absolute possible way. There are things over there that we don't understand. So, for example, chukim, which in their very essence are mitzvot, that
are statutes. We don't understand. We just do them because HaKadosh Baruch Hu told us to do them. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, you're right. Which means it's clear from what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying to us that we don't need to understand every mitzvah in order to keep the mitzvahs. We just know that this is how the system works. So to give you a very basic example, right? I know it's got some flaws in it, but it kind of works. When you get into your car in the morning and you put the key in and you switch it on, and you don't have any doubts that everything is going to work the way that it's supposed to work, right? Unless you've got one of those cars where nothing works. But it's like you know that it's going to get you from A to B. Do you know exactly what's going on? No, most people don't. Most people don't have a clue, what's firing what and what's happening after the engine has started and how the whole system interacts with each other. We just know that this is the way that it works, right? Somebody comes to the petrol station and says, you know what, I don't feel that putting in petrol enhances, my experience of driving this car. Well, you're not going to go very far, right? Because you'll run out of petrol and that will be that. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying like this, you don't have to understand every single dimension to realize that this is the correct way to do it. Hold on, let me just, I want to keep going because there's a very important piece over here. The Jewish people, when they stood at Har Sinai, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to them, you want my Torah, you don't want my Torah. What does he say to them? What do the Jewish people say? They say, Na'aseh v'nishma, which means what? Na'aseh v'nishma means we will do.
And we should listen.
Well, it's more than we, again, we will listen. That's a literal translation. But it's not going to help us understand what nishma really means. It can't be we will listen in the simplest understanding.
It's accept.
Accept, understand, internalize. Combination of all of those things together, right? But if you listen carefully to what's being said, what they're saying is, Nasa, we will do without any preconditions. Whatever HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to do, that's what we'll do. And then, V'nishma. And then we'll sit down and we'll try to work it out. And the more that we understand, there's no doubt whatsoever that the more I understand a mitzvah, the greater is my feeling for that mitzvah. There's no doubt about that, right? That's human nature. The greater you understand something, the greater is your appreciation of what you've got. One second. However, right, what we're learning over here is something very, very fundamental. The Jewish people are making no preconditions. Nasa, we will do it, right? Which means that we're coming and we're saying, if we understand properly what the Jewish people are saying, we're saying like this, right? That we will do it, whether we understand it, whether we don't understand it, whether we like it, whether we don't like it, we're going to do it because that's what God tells us to do. Okay? Then the Nishma. Okay, Moshe, you wanted to...
No, Rabbi, one happens to be this week, this Friday. Very nice way he put it. He says, with so many mitzvahs that we don't know what does it mean, and we don't, we have not. He compared the Jewish people to a 3-year-old kid. The parents are taking him to the doctor for,
an injection.
The kid, he doesn't know why is he being hurt and all that.
Uh-huh.
Eventually, says he's comparing us to a 3-year-old at that point, going for it. He doesn't understand. He doesn't know what.
Okay, that's definitely okay. I would take it in order to make it more palatable. I would say, what about somebody who goes in for complicated surgery, right? And there's all kind of machinery that's there in the operating room that you don't understand how it works. I've never come across anybody who will not go through surgery until they understand exactly how every bit of machinery works. Right? I don't, these kinds of, when it comes to something other than religion, we seem to be very accepting. When it comes to religion, all of a sudden we become, no, I'm only going to do this, on condition that I know that it's going to help me, or on condition that I understand it, or I'll tell you an interesting story. Actually, it's really something quite fascinating. When I first started teaching here, long time ago, one of the first, I don't know, but probably within the first 6 months that I was here, there was a fellow came in. He was a PhD student in philosophy. He was a tremendous intellectual, and we were having a whole series of shiurim on tefillin. right? Tefillin. You know, what they are, why they are, who they are, which they are, and then afterwards we learned the halachas of tefillin. And it transpired, in the shir transpired, this fellow, since his bar mitzvah, hadn't put on his tefillin. So we reached a point where I think his interest was piqued enough where he said that maybe he should put them on. So I had a great idea. I said, you know what, come tomorrow and you know, bring your tefillin with you. We'll make a tefillin party. What could be better than that, right? And so the next morning he turned up with his tefillin, his little velvet bag with his tefillin in. I turned up with some drinks and some rogalach. And you know, he gets them out. I can picture this clearly. He gets them out. He puts both the tefillin on his velvet bag, and he's looking at them. And after a little while, you know, it goes all this sort of like uncomfortable silence. And after a while, he looks up and he says, I can't do this. So I said to him, what do you mean you can't do this? We learned about it. You know, just you've got to pull this sleeve up and you've got to put them on and tighten them up, make the blessing. We'll all answer amen, and then wind them around. We did this. But what's the problem? So he said, no. He says, I can't do this. He says, I find it impossible to believe that all the beautiful things that we spoke about in class come down to this little leather box and this leather strap. He says, I can't do this. So I'd only just started teaching over here, and I really didn't have a clue. What do you do now? I mean, first of all, I didn't know we should drink the drinks and eat the rogalach, or we shouldn't drink the drinks and eat the rogalach. You know, in the end, we ate the rogalach, as far as I can remember. But I had no idea what to say to this fellow, not a clue. So in the break, I went. Rabbi Tatz was still teaching here, and you know, before he moved to London. So I went to Rabbi Tatz. I said to him, you know, what should I have done? Like, what should I have said? So he asked who the fellow was, and when he heard the name and he realized what we're talking about, this fellow was a real honest-to-goodness intellectual, he really was. He says, there's not very much that can be done right now. So I asked him, what does he mean? So he explained to me something very, very interesting. He said the Jewish people said, Na'aseh v'nishma at Har Sinai. Na'aseh v'nishma goes against logic. It goes against your rationale. It really does. Because we're human beings. We want to understand why we do things before we do them. We really do. And yet we're coming along and we're saying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we trust you implicitly, and whatever it is that you're offering us, then we will accept it, even if we don't understand it. He said, why did the Jewish people say Na'aseh v'nishma and not Nishma v'naseh? That's the logical progression, right? Okay, teach me all about it, and then I'll do it. So explain, Rabbi Tatz, because when you start with Nishma, you'll never get to the Nasa. If you start with the understanding, you start with learning about it, you'll never get to the commitment of Nasa, because there's always more to learn. There's always more levels over there. There's always greater understanding. So hold on a second, I can't do this mitzvah yet because I haven't really plumbed the depths right now, right? And that's the problem. So like this, hold on, I want to clarify everything, and then you can say whatever you want, okay?
Very good, Marshall.
The Indian is like this. The question over here is, let's go back to wearing tzitzis, yeah? The question over here is, am I not wearing tzitzis because it's too big for me right now? It's too much of a commitment. You know what? I'm happy to do all kinds of things. I really am. I'm happy to try to keep Shabbos, and I'm happy to wear my kippah when I'm around other Jews. I'm even happy, you know what, I'm even happy to try to keep kosher, but wearing tzitzis in my mind is a commitment which, I don't know, it's very big. You know, it's interesting, when it comes to mitzvahs, there's no rules over here. Some people are capable of keeping complicated mitzvahs, but when it comes to what we look at as easier mitzvahs, they say, I don't know, it's too much for me, and vice versa. Some people can keep the easier ones, and the more difficult ones, it's whatever it is, yeah? So, if the reason why a person is not wearing tzitzis is simply because they feel that in their mind that's an enormous commitment, and I don't know if I'm ready to do that right now. That's definitely 1,000% acceptable. It's 1,000% valid, right? Because everybody has to grow in their own way, and everybody's got to connect themselves to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in their own way. But if the person's saying, I'm not doing this mitzvah because I don't do mitzvahs until I understand them, so that's a little bit of intellectual hubris, if you ask me. There's a little bit of pride over here, which I think that is not the right reason. And the truth of the matter is that I think that under most circumstances, it's really the first reason. Even if they paint it as being the second reason, I think it's really the first reason, which is the idea of making that kind of a commitment. I'm making a statement, right? I'm going to wear tzitzit, or I'm going to wear my kippah, or I'm going to keep Shabbat completely. That's a statement, and very often for the person, it's too big, it's too much.
I'm not saying I'm never going to do it. I'm saying that I'm not saying that it's not because I'm not saying because it's not because I don't understand it. I'm just saying that I want to have it an exciting thing. Do you know what I mean? I want to make it exciting.
Good.
So when I actually understand, I can find.
Yeah. So I think to me that sounds like falling into the first category, which is I'm right now. I'm not sure that I'm ready for this.
Yeah.
Right. Because I need a certain kind of an experience to go together with this, and I'm not there. So that's okay. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's watching, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu's patient, right? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu's waiting for you to get to that point where you're ready to do it. And then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will applaud you, and he'll say, here, you put them on at the right time and in the right place.
Okay, fine. Can I question your original point then?
Sure.
I normally agree with you, but at this point I don't. Simply because if you think about it, let's say I see a kid who, whatever, they're 12, 13 years old, and in the Kiruv world, and you say to them, do you know what? Fine. Keep every mitzvah. Firstly, where do they start? And secondly, what about kibbud hava'em? If they live in their own home, if they live in their parents' home.
Yeah, for sure. Which means everything has to be done in a measured way.
Okay, so fine. To follow on from that, let's say I come home for 2 weeks from yeshiva. I come home for 2 weeks in December, which I am doing. How do I then make sure that my mum knows that I haven't become the psychopath who has two? Do you know what I mean?
I tell you what. First of all, your mother is going to know that by listening to you and watching you, which means it could be that a person comes home much frummer than when they left, and it could be that the parents are a little bit shaken up by what they're seeing.
How do you relate to that? How do you relate to that? But I tell you, the answer is that amongst, you already mentioned it, really, I think you've answered your own question actually, that amongst the various mitzvahs, there is a mitzvah of kibbud ava'im. And what is true is that very often when children, I don't want to say go off the deep end. I'm not going to say that, even though I just said it, right? So that means that you'll all understand what I'm trying to say. But sometimes when children take upon themselves an awful lot and they become very intense and they become very serious about what they're doing. Approach.
Huh?
All or nothing approach.
All or nothing approach, right? However, what's the problem? For some reason on the way, they seem to forget the mitzvah of kibbud ava'im. I always tell my talmidim and my talmidas all the time that the greater your kibbud ava'im is, the greater is your appreciation that your parents will have for the fact that you became religious. Because what they'll see, I'm sure that you were a great kid, right? I'm sure that your parents had a lot of nachas from you and that you were a wonderful child, right? But if they see you coming back and you've become a little bit frummer, and you've become a little bit more careful with your kibbud ava'im, so they'll make the connection, they'll understand, you know what, okay, so maybe we look at him as being a little bit extreme. What was it the other day when you said, somebody who keeps more than you is a fanatic, right?
Yeah.
So maybe he's a little fanatical, but you know what? It's a pleasure to have him around. I see that all the time, I really do.
So then, if you're going, take for example the mitzvah of keeping kosher. My parents normally eat out a lot of the time, so what do I do then? I can't say to them, do you know what, Mum?
So here, if you've already, this is another thing you should know. I think it's very, very important what you're bringing up. If you've reached the point where that's it, you want to keep kosher and you don't want to do this anymore, the simplest thing is to let your parents know, and let your parents know that Baruch Hashem, there are ample places to go to which are kosher. So it's true, whilst you're home, they may not be may not be able to go to their favorite place, right, or their favorite restaurants. But there's such an enormous selection of kosher places today. That's what I always say. When somebody becomes frum, and all of a sudden they can't do this, and they can't do that, and they can't do the other, and parents and siblings feel they start to feel like constricted. What's going on over here? They start to feel suffocated, right? So I always tell everybody, it's not enough to say no. You've got to offer an alternative. Which is, let's say, for example, parents on Sunday night, the whole family goes out to watch a movie, right? And you don't want to watch movies anymore. So you've got to offer an alternative. How about if we go out and go ice skating? How about if we go boating? How about if we go out and drink coffee somewhere? How about if we go, let's go make a picnic and have it in the park, right?
In a very diplomatic way towards your parents.
Yeah.
But I can imagine the conversation already, because she's got friends who went to yeshiva. Her best friend's son went to yeshiva and became an absolute fanatic. If I come back and say to her, do you know what, Mum, I don't want to go to non-kosher restaurants anymore. She's going to say to me, well, then you're ruining, do you know what I mean, you're ruining the holiday or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So again, what I'm trying to get across over here is like this: it's not always going to be smooth, right? Here, I have a son-in-law who is a celiac, which means he can't eat grains, only certain grains, and I don't know, for some reason, when somebody's got some kind of a medical issue, then everybody bends over backwards in order to accommodate them, even though it can be very, very inconvenient. Somebody has a nut allergy, so you can't have your favorite nut cake anymore whilst they're there, because who knows what's going to happen. Somebody's diabetic, so you can't do this and you can't go there and you can't have that. And somebody keeps kosher, la havdil. I'm not saying that there's that's the same as having some kind of a medical issue, but somebody keeps kosher. So I would say like this, that for the 2 weeks that you're back, everybody needs to try to accommodate everybody, which means you need to tell your parents that, Mum, Dad, you want to go out, you should go out and you should have a great time. But I can't come there. If you want to go, I heard there's this fantastic place that's opened up, wherever. If you want to go there and we could give that a try, then that would be great. Right?
Is it a good idea? So let's say they're going to a non-kosher restaurant. Is it a good idea? I'd turn back and say to them, do you know what? Maybe you two go and I'll babysit tonight or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Your parents have to see, first of all, that you're not trying to restrict their lifestyle.
That's what my fear is.
That's first of all, right? Secondly, they've got to see that you love them and you care for them, and that you don't want to do anything that's going to upset them. And that comes, how does that come? That comes with speaking to them respectfully, and it comes to speaking to, and behaving to them in a way and helping them out whenever you can, right? All of those things which you probably do anyway. But here, just to fine tune it, that's all. And then your parents have to see that, again, together with the fanaticism, right? They see the fact that maybe it's good, right? It's good that it's kind of nice, the way that he talks to us and the way that he helps us out and the way that he just wants to, it's kind of nice. What can I tell you? Will it work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? No, not necessarily. Will there be some moments which might have a little bit of tension inside of them? Of course, but anything that you can do to diffuse the tension, that's all.
I guarantee that if you just sit down with them, as soon as you come in, he says, love you guys, but I have changed a little bit myself, and I don't want to ruin your life either.
Yeah, that's great, right?
They will come around more to your thinking than their thinking, because they're going to show respect for you, and the same way that you're giving them.
See, on top of everything else, they want you to.
Going off on a tangent.
No, it's fine. It's important that they want you to be Jewish.
Yeah.
Right, and everybody knows at the end of the day, anyone who's got any kind of Jewish connection, they know at the end of the day that the only way that you can really sustain this is by keeping the mitzvahs. Because otherwise, what is Jewish is what? Jewish is it's some kind of an ethnic thing, it's a cultural thing, it's a culinary thing. What is it? I always say that some of the proudest Jews in the world have got non-Jewish grandchildren. It's not enough to be proud to be Jewish. You got to do things as well. And so long as these things are given over gently, like Rabbi Moshe said, you preface what you're saying by saying, I love you, and they should see that, and they should feel it. So they'll know, you've made some small changes. They can roll their eyeballs and say, small, small, right? But if you try to downplay try to downplay the differences.
Made, yeah. You're not going to stand up with a sign saying, "I'm now keeping kosher," or
yeah,
"I'm now doing this," I'm now doing
absolutely,
that.
right? I think you need to sort of downplay the differences and emphasize the way that things are still
What's
the same.
the background of your parents?
I'm talking about their parents.
I mean, my relationship with my parents has always been hard religiously, because
They have been religious.
so my dad wasn't religious until about when I turned 13, and that made me go off the religion for about, I would say, 3-4 years, because the second he became more religious, he was like, okay, fine, this is when I tell you to do things. He would always wake up and have you put on to fit in it, and it's like, do you know what I mean? And
So you were rebelling. Which
no,
makes
because
sense.
but I was brought up with a strong grounding and basic grounding. Like, we would have Friday night dinner, etc. And then suddenly, as time went on, it just got a little bit more intense. And for me, that intensity was something that I didn't like, because I felt was enforced upon me. And if I turn, and this is it's a big debate that I always have with them. It's how can I don't know the right word for it, as in every time I try and be more religious, they say, oh, you're becoming an extremist.
I tell you why. It's part of that idea that anyone who keeps more than me is a fanatic, and anyone who keeps less than me is a bum, right? But the bottom line is that your parents have made some changes inside of their own lifestyle. I would imagine that somewhere along the line they know perfectly well that the changes that they've made, that there should be more changes coming along as well, which is, what they've done is fantastic, but maybe there's more to do. And if they see you doing that, then it becomes, in their mind, a little bit threatening. Now, the last thing that you want is to be threatening. The last thing that you intended is to be threatening, but you can't control their reaction. You can't control their perception. Which means, for example, if they perhaps they eat out in places that they shouldn't be eating out in, and they know that.
Who am I to tell them that they're doing something wrong? I'm not going to go up and say, get out, you shouldn't eat there. It's
No,
not kosher,
but you
you're
see,
just
what's the problem? The problem is that by not joining them, that's really what you're saying to them. In their minds, not in yours, right? In your mind, you're saying, look, Mum, Dad, you have to go wherever you want to go, and you have to enjoy yourselves, and I'm not going to cramp your style. You've got to do whatever you want to do. But in their minds, what they're seeing is somebody who is doing really what they need to be doing as well. And that becomes it can be a little bit threatening. It really can.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you something. Again, I don't know. I don't know your parents, but it could be that maybe, if they've been on the path of becoming more religious for the last few years already, it could be that maybe they're ready to, consider the option of notching it up a little bit. And you may find that your trip home is very beneficial for them. That, they're sort of being met with the idea that the places that they're going to are perhaps not the right places for them to be. Then, maybe that will force them to confront what they're doing. Maybe they'll come to the conclusion that maybe they shouldn't be going to these places. All I'm saying is like this: you're not going back to preach to them. You're not going back to try to make them frum. Nothing. But what you do have to do is you always have to offer options. Right? Instead of sort of walking in and saying, I can't do this and I can't do that and I can't have this and I can't have that. It's got to be, well, I can't go there, but how about if we go there? I would prefer not to do this, but how about if we do that instead? And, Baruch Hashem, especially in London, the options there are all kinds of options over there, all kinds of things that can be done. I had a Talmud once. It was very sweet, actually. He said that his entire, when he was a little kid, his parents kept dragging him off to museums. They wanted to educate him, make him cultured. And he said he didn't want to go to museums. I think most little children don't want to, whatever. I'm talking about like 10 years and upwards. It's like, whatever. But at some point, when he turned about 14 or 15, they started going. They started going on Sunday nights as a family. They started going to the cinema, right, to see a film. And he said, he came back from yeshiva. He didn't want to go there. He didn't want to go to films anymore. And so he suggested to his parents, well, how about if we go to a museum instead? And he said it was like role reversal. He said they'd spent his childhood trying to drag him off to museums and trying to culture him, and he was saying, come on, how about if we do this instead? Let's go to the museum. And he said it was very funny. It really was. But again, That's it. I think that's you know, to be soft, to be gentle, not to be demanding, right? But to stick up for what you believe in, to stand firm in what it is that you have.
I've asked this question to so many people. That's the first time I actually understood the answer to it, and it's actually given me a lot of help. So thank you.
Good. Okay. I mean, it's Hashem. It should go well. You know, it's
Take Rabbi Freifel. When he approached, a fellow, and this fellow didn't understand it, but he wanted to do everything he wanted. He says, no, don't.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
He says, don't.
I heard on many. Rav Mendel Weinbach, who was the late Rosh Hashiva here in Or Sameach, I was very close to him. And I heard it, he told me on many occasions, he would tell me, tell him to slow down. Got a guy coming in, here in Or Sameach there are FFBs and BTs, right? An FFB is from birth and a BT is about Tshuva.
Yeah.
Over here in Or Sameach we have FFTs as well. What's an FFT? From Tuesday. Comes in on Sunday and by Tuesday that's it. Everything. It's not healthy.
So that's the other thing. If you see that somebody's going that way, what can you do to support them? You can't say stop doing what you're doing.
No, you for sure not. His spiritual mentors, they can try to slow him down a little bit, right? You as a friend or as an acquaintance, you've got to try to support him as much as you can. To applaud what he's trying to do, and
even if you don't think it's right.
Even if you don't think it's right, because what can you do otherwise? Tell him that, like you said, what you're going to tell him he shouldn't be doing something?
No, you're not. Right.
Like where are you? I don't want to say who are you, but I'm going to say it anyway. Like who are you to decide that what he's doing right now is wrong, and what he did yesterday is right? Those are enormous decisions, right? And it's true. You know what? Sometimes it's very disturbing. You see that the person's on the road to something which is not going to end properly. You see that. Here, Rav Mendel Weinbach used to say like this, there are two ways to get up a flight of stairs. You can either walk up step by step, and you'll get to the top, or you can jump as high as you can, and you'll get up, I don't know what, eight stairs maybe in one go, right? But you'll teeter. And sometimes you'll retain your balance, and sometimes you'll fall. And when you fall down the stairs, you fall down to the bottom. And you hurt yourself on the way. And Rav Mendel used to say, there are two ways of becoming frum. You can go up step by step, go up onto the first step, make sure that you're feeling steady, move on to the next one, move up and up. And as you get going, you'll move up a little bit quicker, the more comfortable you are. He says, or there are people that try to take on everything all at once. And sometimes they teeter and sometimes they fall, and it's not terribly healthy. It really isn't. The rabbis, Chazal, the sages say like this. There's a fascinating saying. Tafasta meruba, loy tafasta. Tafasta meruba means that you grab a hold of a lot, loy tafasta, you end up with nothing. You don't have anything there. I guess in our lexicon that would be, you've bitten off more than you can chew.
Mm-hmm.
Tafasta meruba, you want it all, and
one time.
there's just so much there that by the time you've got your arms around it, it's all slipped out and there's nothing left anymore. And tafasta meruba, like tafasta, is applicable to very, very many dimensions in our lives, and I think it's very much applicable sometimes to the journey that people make to try to become more orthodox, to become more religious, that it becomes tafasta meruba, like tafasta. It could be over here in the yeshiva, they grab a hold of everything, and they really are FFTs. They really are from Tuesday. But the minute they step outside, and there's nothing, there's no foundation over there, and then the whole thing begins to crumble, and that's not good.
That's really. Thank you very much.
The beauty is that also I admire it. That's why I like about that the philosophy how to handle young fellows. There could be kids here coming with t-shirts, no yarmulke.
Same time.
Little by little, they coming and start seeing. You can't tell them, no, you got to put on a yarmulke. No, do this. It's not.
You gotta accept people for who they are. That's really what it comes down to. But what's the chart? I've seen how is it possible to have non-from parents and from children, and they get on fine together?
Because it's from child and not judgmental on the from
Because
parents.
the from child is not judgmental, right? The from child is doing his best to just accept, right? And it works. It really works. It really does.
As in, I could easily, for example, I could go to that non-kosher establishment and not eat there.
You could do that, but I think the truth of the matter is, if you ask me, again, I don't know your parents, but if you ask me, I would say that would cramp their style even more.
Yeah.
Right? And that's not really what you're planning on doing, which is if you want to stop them from going to these places, that's your agenda, then going with them and sitting with them in the restaurant and not eating anything, maybe that would be the right thing to do. Libi oimali, I don't think so.
No, I need.
I think that what you need to do is, like you said, you need to say, here, you go out, you have a great time, I'm going to stay home and look after the kids or look after the dog or feed the fish or whatever it is, that needs to be done. And
they will understand. I guarantee you that. And you'll see them come around to your...
I'll tell you something else that needs to be done, which could be a little bit difficult actually, because you're going back, you haven't been back for a while, and you've probably got a lot of friends over there that you want to catch up with and you want to meet. But your parents also have to see that you want to be with them, which means that coming home, sometimes I'm saying you're coming home. Very often, what happens is that you get so caught up in the social whirlwind, that all these people you haven't seen, and you're going here, and you've got to go there, and you've got to meet him, and you've got to meet there, and sometimes, like after 2 weeks, you can come back and you can realize that, the truth is that I only spent Shabbos with my parents, and you gotta leave a little bit of time for them as well, and like I said, help out, just doesn't hurt, right, to help out. Whatever. Here, that's. Should you keep the mitzvahs? The answer is yes. Are you ready to keep them all? No. Good. The only thing which is a little bit of a difficult one to call, the whole time that you're not ready to keep something. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't have any tiners on you. He doesn't have any agenda with you. He's like, fine, you're not ready. You're not ready. But when a person starts hiding, they are ready, but they hide behind the fact that they're not ready, then at that point HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to be a little bit impatient. And that's a very fine line to call. Know? I don't know, because I think for each person it's different. But it's a very fine line to call, right? It's very, very subjective.
It's not even, I sometimes fear the fact that if I live my life by saying, I need to understand why I'm doing this, I need to understand doing this, I'm going to end up doing nothing because I don't understand it all. Yeah. That's a fear that I have.
Yes, which is 100% correct. And that's where the Nasa V'nishma kicks in. Which means I have to, if I am prepared to accept upon myself that this is right and this is good, even though I don't understand every detail right now, then I can accept upon myself that this is what I need to do. So again, for example, a person has a certain kind of a sickness, and the doctor puts them onto a very strict regimen, right? And they're gonna do it because they know that this is what they need to do. Now it could be through their sickness. It could be that they'll learn up about it, and they'll look at the different dimensions over here and what can be done, what can't be done, and it will become easier for them to do because they understand why. But at the end of the day, they know that what needs to be done has to be done because that's what the doctor is telling him, right? And that's the same thing over here. If I accept that this Judaism business is right, that it's good, then I can feel comfortable doing things, even though right now I don't understand them. Here, and that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, right? And the emphasis is like, it fits in, it wasn't a tangent at all, because this Rashi over here, again, it's so fundamental. B'chol yom yeh beinecha chadoshim. Every day, it's got to be new. What we're doing has to be new. Even the things that you did yesterday, you're doing them today, you're doing them for the first time today. So that has to have that sense of, you've got to have like a frisson of excitement. It's got to be a passion for what you're doing.
It's like, he doesn't understand that part, but it's the beauty of the Taharas and the Mishpacha is that
You know, when it's the time of.
Oh, yeah. Gemara says.
Like a honeymoon again, and this is it.
Laws of family purity. It's interesting. You know, one of the divorce statistics are enormous, right? Over 50%, which means over 1 in 2 couples get divorced. In the outside world, in the secular world, in the Jewish world, in the frum world, it's a lot less, right? Divorce exists and it's on the rise, but the statistics are much, much lower. Why is that? So one of the reasons that the psychologists offer is because inside of Judaism there is a concept called the laws of family purity. There are 2 weeks in the month where the husband and the wife are not allowed to have physical contact with each other, which means that they have to learn how to communicate with each other and how to interrelate with each other and how to offer each other support without physicality.
So you can't hug the other person?
You can't hug, right? The easiest way to support somebody is by giving them a hug, to give them a kiss, to show them you love them, to show them you care for them, right? The same way that it's the easiest way to do that, it's also the way that has the least, it's the least significant way as well. If you learn that within 2 weeks in the month you can't do that, and you've got to learn how to show that love, you can show it verbally, you can show it by writing something, you can show it by bringing flowers, all different kinds of ways that you can do it. But it's got a depth to it that is greater than the physical dimension.
I love that idea.
It says the Gemara, the most incredible thing, that when the lady comes back from the mikveh after 2 weeks of not being able to touch, now they're able to have relations again, they're able to touch each other, it's like getting married all over again. One of the reasons why there is so much divorce, if you just look around, read up about it, you'll see it's because people get bored with each other. In Judaism, one of the dimensions of boredom, which comes with just physical familiarity, is something which is not there, because every 2 weeks you've got to get to know each other again. You've got to learn all over again how to do this, and it's something very, very beautiful. It really is.
And you think you can apply it to this puzzle?
For sure, the Chadashim it's something new.
Is it once every? You're saying every month for 2 weeks, or once a year?
No, every month. Every month. When a lady begins her period, then at that point she has to separate from her husband. I don't mean separate. They have to physically separate from each other. And they're not allowed to have any physical contact with each other.
Can they sleep in the same bed now?
No. They have to sleep in separate beds.
That's why you don't have, if you go to a religious house, people that do not have
double bed.
They'll always have
double bed,
separate beds. Always. My father, I remember when we getting married, I went to the get this metunish.
In those days, yeah. It's you know what I'm telling you, it's something very beautiful. This idea of freshness, this idea of newness, right? Which is something which has to run its way through. The more you feel that what you're doing is fresh, the better it is. It's as simple as that, right? How many times do you smell the milk? Right? You take the milk out the fridge and you smell it to see whether it's fresh or not. If it's not fresh, you're not going to drink it. If your relationship with your wife is not fresh, then it's not good, right? If your relationship with God is not fresh, it's not good. And that's exactly what Rashi's saying over here.
How do you make it fresh?
But you have to want it. You should know that's what it comes down to. You have to have a desire to be connected. In the same way, what makes let's talk in the secular world, right? So good, let's say you've got a 55% divorce rate, but you've got a 45% rate of people that don't get divorced. What is the only difference between a successful marriage and a non-successful marriage?
10%.
Huh?
10%.
But within the marriage itself, what's the difference? What makes that part of this statistic and what makes that part of this statistic? It's just a desire to make this work, that's all. You can have two couples exactly the same, they live in the same area, they've got the same environment, they've got the same socio-economic layer, right? Mm-hmm. And yet one of them has got a successful marriage and the other one doesn't. Why would that be? Because the one that's got a successful marriage, they desire their marriage to work. They want it to work. It's hard. I'm not saying it's not hard. But the answer is easy. A person wants to have a relationship with God. How do you retain that relationship with God? How do you keep that relationship fresh? You've got to want it. If you don't want it, then it won't be fresh.
I do want to, but I think I'm putting boundaries upon myself.
Could be.
As in,
You've been what?
I put boundaries. I know, as in, I come to Shiva and I know exactly what I do want to do and what I don't want to do. For example, one of the things that I'm not prepared to do is like Shon Nagia, for example. I don't want, and that's because of respect. I want to do it, but I know the effect that it will have on my family. It will be devastating for them, and I know that myself because I've seen it. My mum said to me, "Don't do it because it will hurt me a lot." I want to do it, but I know it will hurt her. And then, do you know what I mean? What's the percent?
Okay, look, I don't know. It really depends what you're talking about. It depends what the situation is, right? Shamanagir for sure is not this. Has got nothing to do with parents. It's got nothing to do with mothers. It's got nothing to do with grandmothers. It's I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. I think it very much depends on the details. If you want, at some point we can sit down and talk about it. But
why would Shamanagir mother? I don't understand.
Because it goes back to this friend that she has, whose son went extremely wrong.
became a sugar from.
Yeah, he can't hug her. He doesn't hug any of the mum's friends or whatever, because he's Shom Nagia.
Okay, so he can hug his mother, and he can kiss his mother. If he's not doing that, then somebody needs to take him into a room somewhere and slap him around the face.
He's not doing that, and that's the problem.
It's wrong.
Yeah.
It's wrong. He needs to go and ask. He needs to go and ask his rabbi whether he's allowed to hug his mother. There's no problem with having physical contact with your mother. Quite the opposite. You should hug your mother. You should kiss your mother. If you have grandmothers, you should hug your grandmothers and you should kiss your grandmothers. Right? It's something. It's a tremendous thing. It really is. It's fantastic. If you have great grandmothers, you can do that too. If you've got great grandmothers, keep going all the way back. I don't know how far back you go.
Are you allowed to deal with your auntie or whatever? No.
So aunt is already a problem. Okay?
You know what?
Aunt.
No,
That's already a problem. But you know what? Here, first of all, to put things into perspective. Right? If your mother's picking up the idea that somebody who's taken that upon themselves is no longer allowed to have any contact with his own mother, then that needs to be righted. It really does. She needs to be told that that's not true, and she needs to be told that if that's what the friend is doing, then something's wrong. He should go and ask his rabbi what he's allowed to do and what he's not allowed to do, because he's misunderstanding things over here. And that's just important for your own mother, just for your mother to understand that something's not right over here, because otherwise she's going to come out with the wrong impression of what being frum is all about.
Very, very religious, very hurry. To the point that when he goes to Yerushalayim, he takes up his eyeglasses, But when it comes to his mother, he always go hug her and give her Shabbos and all.
I was at a bar mitzvah once. It was very cute, actually. That the bar mitzvah boy, his grandfather is a very very important Rosh Hashiva over here in Yerushalayim, and his uncle, the grandfather's brother, is also the two of them. They've got two different yeshivas. They're very very important. And at the bar mitzvah, it's a shtickle family. So at the bar mitzvah, the great-grandmother got up to speak. She was still alive, and she spoke. Very cute. And at the end, these two brothers sort of came over and sort of said, shkoyach, very nice. And she said something loud enough for everybody to hear. She says, you can give me a kiss and you can hug me, you know that. And then in front of everybody, they gave her a kiss and they gave her a hug. That's what it's all about, right? Building relationships, not destroying them, that's for sure not. I'm not telling you what to do.
No.
I want you to know that if that maybe there's been some misconceptions over here. Maybe it's not as bad as it sounds. Maybe it's not as difficult as it sounds. Whatever. Here, let's just
Don't forget to hug your mother.
Yeah.
No, that's it.
But the minute you see her, right, when you come off the plane, if she comes to pick you up, then give her a hug, give her a kiss, tell her how much you missed her.
Your father, don't worry about it if you don't do it.
No, give him one as well.
Molly, beans.
You should know something. Does your father have the custom to bless you on Friday night?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have that custom too. I got it from my father, got it from his father, whatever, going back. Very nice, it's beautiful. But you should know, one of the reasons why I do that, I mean, aside from the fact that I think it's the right thing to do, and it's a beautiful thing to do, but I realized, teenage boys are not very keen on physical contact with their parents. But when you bring them up knowing that on Friday night, they're going to get benched and they're going to get a hug and they're going to get a kiss, that it's just part of the protocol, it's just part of what happens, then it gives you the opportunity to connect together with your children. I think it's great, I really do. And that's maybe the first Friday night that you're home and your father benches you, give him a hug and tell him that you've missed having it done in person.
Correct.
Which hopefully is true, right? So, what could be better than that? In all events, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to keep his mitzvahs. that's where this began, right?
Sorry.
That's fine. I told you it was important. It was very important. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is turning us into an Am Segula. What is an Am Segula?
You say it in Lachadodi, don't you?
Treasured nation.
Am Segula.
Am Segula, right? A treasured nation. What is a treasured nation?
Nation that loves Hashem.
A nation that loves Hashem and a nation that Hashem loves them.
Yeah.
Right? And a treasured nation is a nation which is supposed to draw God's majesty down into the world. So here, I like to use this example because I think it's a very apt example. Has anybody here been to London? I mean, obviously you have, right? Anyone else been to London?
I have sometimes.
You have?
Yeah.
Did you ever do any sightseeing? Did you ever go to the Tower of London?
Change of the guards.
You ever go to the Tower of London?
Yeah.
Right, you ever saw the coronation, right? All the coronation jewels, whatever they're called. So there is over there in the Tower of London, they have the coronation crown, which is worn only when people get coronated, which hasn't been worn for a while. In the middle of the coronation crown is a diamond called the Koh-i-Noor. The Koh-i-Noor, if my memory serves me correct, it's 86 carats, this thing. It's ginormous. It looks like an egg. It's ginormous. And it was given by a grateful nation, the Indian nation, the grateful Indian nation to Queen Victoria, which just means that the English stole it and put it into this crown. But the crown is beautiful. It's made out of gold and it's got precious stones and it's got ermine and mink at the bottom. But your eye is drawn to this diamond, which means that the diamond makes the crown. It's there. That's what turns it into what it is. So when HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that we are an Am Segula, that's exactly what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying. The creation was created in order for us to be that diamond that's going to sit in the crown of the creation. That's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be drawing HaKadosh Baruch Hu's light and monarchy down here into this world, and we're supposed to be drawing the attention of the other nations of the world up towards God. That's what it means to be an Am Segula. Kasher diber loch. So when we, the Jewish nation, don't behave like that, when we behave like all the other nations, we're not doing ourselves a service over here. Quite the opposite, we're doing ourselves a disservice because we're not supposed to be doing that. We're supposed to be a little bit different from everybody else in order that people should be able to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu reflected in what we do. To be an Am Segula means to keep his mitzvahs. And you'll be above the other nations, in order for what? So that we can praise and renown and splendor, so that people will see that that's what's supposed to be. Am kadosh LaHashem Elokecha kasher diber. You hear it, Rabbi say, the function of the Jewish people is to be holy. Kadosh, Am Kadosh. What does Kadosh really mean? Separate. How do we show our holiness? How do we show that we're sanctified? By being separate from the other nations. Not separate as in living apart from them and having nothing to do with them, but living a life which is different from theirs. That's what the separateness is for. And maybe we'll end today with a very famous and a very sharp statement from Rav Chaim Volozhiner, the foremost student of the Vilna Gaon. It's about 200 years ago. And he said like this, He says if the Jews don't make Kiddush, then the non-Jews will make Havdalah. Kiddush means to be separate. We have to sanctify ourselves. If we don't sanctify ourselves, the non-Jews, they'll make the separation anyway. What is Havdalah? Havdalah, on Motzei Shabbos, we make Havdalah, not because we want to make Havdalah. We'd like to keep Shabbos the whole week round, but we can't. It's not feasible. So we separate ourselves from the Kedusha of Shabbos, and we move into the week. It's almost like Kiddush is voluntary, and Havdalah is involuntary. Says Rav Chaim Volozhiner, if we don't do what we're supposed to do, the non-Jewish nations do not want us to be like them. In their heart of hearts, they know that the Jewish nation is a chosen nation, and they know that we're supposed to be different from them. And if we don't behave like that, then they will make sure that we remember that that's what we're supposed to be doing. You hear? I guess the theme of today's shir is, we need to be Jewish.